by RAPP, and there will be 4 of us today. I'll do a little setup for about 10 minutes and talk about the context of where we are today. We're on year 2 of leveraging the platform. We have branded ours, we call it Rendezvous. It's the place to meet. And in year 2, we are fighting a lot of new things. The dynamic of clients, of corporate management, and of employees before we took it worldwide. So what we'll talk about today really are changing expectations and how these expectations are feeding our collaboration strategies and feeding success for the team. I'll talk a little bit about the client needs, agency needs, and employee needs, and how all of that is coming to life on the platform itself. So first, the client needs state. I think a lot of this is going to sound cliche and obvious, but it also is how we're actually taking what the clients are demanding and using the platform to drive success. So I think everybody knows speed is so important. Everything has to be done faster and faster. I think when I started in advertising, we got about 3 months to produce a spot. And now, the Super Bowl spot last year was done day of. You will actually see content and communication created in 24 hours. So the speed of actually making things has really changed. Clients expect things to be done more cheaply. It's just the way it is. What used to be actually a business became a commodity, which is now automated. So it better be at a value to the client. And we've got to be smarter. Multi-channel marketing is forcing all of us to be smarter in new technologies and new platforms. And innovation is now table stakes. It used to be we would maybe do a quarterly session with the client, so we've got this new product or new idea. Innovation is on demand now. And it's no longer good enough to just be proactive. We can't be reactive. We've got to be in front of the client before they are. And new models of transparency, which is really interesting as we start to use SocialBridge. Transparency in terms of our profit margin. Our clients get to see our profit margin. They also get to see how we work every day. They want to see how we're making the assets for them. So at the end of the day, our summary for our clients is they demand results. And the results are driven through speed and innovation and automation. But results is what they demand from the agency today. What does the agency or what does the corporate environment demand from us? So we're coming into this collision of what clients want now. What do we have to provide to our agency? We have to have rockstar talent. So no longer is it you can have the 18-year-old who is right out of high school who's a hack coder. That is rockstar talent today. You have to be a digital native. You have to actually understand technology like you never did before. And someone who's in their mid-50s, this is really a struggle for me. And we have to be data-driven. So you hear a lot about big data and small data and data-informed decisions, but data is everywhere. And you have to be able to have talent that gets and uses the data. Intuition is fantastic, but data is everything. And analytically driven decision-making, using the data, using digital technology. We have seen more and more our analytical practices grow. And new methods of collaboration. So agencies are asking us to have better and different ways to be nimble and agile as we learn to collaborate on the fly. I was telling a story about how we show what we think and put it into a medium that is instantaneous. And obviously automation in every form, whether it's from concepting, coordination, project management, billing, automation is beginning to really rule the agency platform. And then billings. At the end of the day, every agency lives and dies by billing. And all of these things are the feeders. Good talent, great automation tools, and collaboration only will help us get billing. What an agency wants to be known for, though, is its creativity. And SocialBridge is a way for us to actually unleash the creativity in the agency and bring it to new levels. So what do employees want? Our employees, I think we heard a lot about this today, new models of flexibility, whether that's when I come to the office or how I communicate. The millennials, Generation X, Gen Y, and Gen X are demanding new forms of flexibility. They also want interesting work. It's not, no more is it the day where I put my resume out there and hope someone responds. I actually now get to choose who I want to work for and what brands I want to work on, because my personal brand score is related to this brand score. And connections. There's so much power now in the role that employees have in creating connections both in and out of the office, and how those connections actually fuel their own personal brand. And new promotability standards. I don't want to go up the traditional career ladder. Employees want to find new ways to leverage their own IP, if you will, to grow in companies. And employees want to work for others who have integrity. They're not the same in terms of what they expect from their management and from their peers. And they also care about quality. The idea of failing forward is wonderful, but they want to fail forward on something that they believe in. I love this slide. And I think this is something, a lot of the things we heard today also is, I want to do it my way. The whole idea of individualism with employees today and the young millennials, super, super important. So all of that wrapped together is talent today demands recognition. It's a new type of recognition. It's a social recognition. It's a recognition on contribution. And so when we look at what's happening with our clients, what's happening in corporate, and what's happening with employees, there's this whole connection point. The idea that results and creativity and recognition all come together. We believe that our platform, Rendezvous, SocialBridge, helps us drive success in each of those dimensions. They come together. We think the common idea there is fame or success. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about key success strategies that we've used and some of the use cases to do this. Some of the strategies, first is bring order amid confusion. Mack will talk a little bit about that and share some stories and content in terms of some of the IP that we have. Creating competitive advantage, we'll talk to you a story about how SocialBridge does that for us, as well as how we use the platform to test ideas in a social environment. The whole idea that service is boundaryless, we'll talk a little bit about how SocialBridge has allowed us to actually tap into our global network and making connections, a little more of the personal side versus the corporate side, and how we create connectivity between employees outside of the typical work conversation. So I'll let Mack get started.
Like Embry said, I think you guys will benefit from the rest of this presentation. Myself, Suellen, and Brandon are going to take you through kind of how we get to everywhere. Of course, everybody has their own adoption issues with all features of the tool, and we use the tool in so many different ways that not everybody gets the benefit, but hopefully you guys can take a couple things from here that you've learned. So bringing order to confusion, if you guys were in the last session with Michael, he talked about getting from point A to point B. Everybody has to cross a bridge to get there, and you can always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but once you're 80% there, it gets crazy. So how do you reel it in? How do you finish your project when everybody knows it's very confusing? So I'll walk you through 3 examples. The first one is the partner portal. There's been a big initiative in RAPP to benefit from trusted partners. So everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. How can we make sure that everybody has access to those people? So we had our financial system has a list of all these vendors that we've used, that we've paid. You can contact finance if you know that you need an HTML programmer or somebody who does mobile apps. But finance doesn't really care to give you that. It's very hard to get it from them. So how can we make it available to everybody? So we created a database, one workspace that everybody can go to find somebody that can help them create their project. So there are 3 things you can do in here: find a partner, add a partner, and rate a partner. If Mack's looking to finish up a mobile app that I have to do, I can come to this portal, go to the Find a Partner tab in the top left, and it's just a database view that's slightly customized, but it'll show me all the vendors that are approved in RAPP. And there are a couple of runtime filters. So I can search by a name, which I might not know, But I can also change the runtime filter to be services provided. So if I know that I'm going to need somebody with both HTML and mobile app experience, I can take that down one step further and maybe cut the vendor list in half. And I also know that they need to be, very quick. They can't be busy. So I can add another runtime filter and make that list even shorter. So allowing everybody to fund things that they need very quickly. But this list, everybody has to be approved. So here on the home page, there are only 2 columns: add a partner and rate a partner. You may have worked with somebody that is not a partner of this database. So there's a string of approvals to get them in. These 4 links at the top right here are 4 forms that you have to fill out for RAPP to get somebody approved in your finance system. So in the instructions, it says you download these 4 forms, send them off to the vendor, they fill them out, and you send them back. And through a web form, here on the left side, you actually just input all the information you have. At the bottom, there's 4 slits that you upload the 4 forms. And then when you click submit, it doesn't automatically show in the Find a Partner. I actually get an email that says there's been a vendor submitted. I make sure that the forms are there, that everything's filled out correctly. And then we have an approval process. So it goes from me, I change it to submitted for review. It goes to our CFO, it goes to his team, and they go through their own process where they review the information. All they have to do is download the forms, review the information, they change the status to approved, and it goes into the Find a Partner. So after the string of approvals, there's no going back to change the database. The views we have in place, they automatically appear. So very, very easy. And then the rate a partner. So you do have a long list of vendors. You do have 10 people that show up when you search for HTML programmers, but how do I know who I want? So I wanted a kind of an Angie's List type feel to who you're looking for. So right here, and I wish I would have got this in a screenshot, there's just 3 fields. There's a drop-down where you choose the vendor that you used. There's a drop-down for a grade, so you give them A, A+, B, C, and then comments. So all 3 are required. And once you submit that, it automatically ties it back to the record that's in the Find a Partner. So if I am looking for somebody in HTML, there's 3 results. I can click into each and read the comments at the bottom of the record to see who I wanted to use. You can see who wrote the comments, so I could reach out to them directly and say, is this true? Because you can have a vendor that has all A and A+, and then a D. You can contact them and say what happened. So very powerful and been a great success. Web folders. Mike also touched on the Omnicom initiative for email retention. So yes, everybody freaked out. What do you mean I can't hold this? This is one of the features where you tell people about it, and they're like, oh, that's cool, but they never use it. And then they come back to you when they say, what do I do for this email retention? And you say, the web folders. If you guys don't use this, I would suggest you do. All you do is map to this network drive and use the same credentials that you use to log into Central Desktop. What you can do is manage all your content without ever even logging in. So this is kind of the available anytime, anywhere. You don't even have to log into the tool to access or save. So when I get an email from somebody that says, here's the PowerPoint presentation, they didn't upload to Rendezvous, I can respond and say, upload it. Or I can just go save as and save it right to those web folders. So if you don't know, when you click on the web folders and you log in, this list right here is a list of workspaces that you're a part of in the system. Then the folders that are in that workspace, and you just click save. It goes straight to that folder, real time, you can save it, go over to Central Desktop, refresh the page, and the document's there. So very cool and very efficient. And the last one is web meetings. So I like to take a little bit of credit because I had a big request and a long meeting with Central Desktop. But we, internally, RAPP used to use Adobe products. So if you have a meeting with Gerber next Thursday and you need a virtual room because you need to share a PowerPoint, you had to open a ticket with IT and say, can you give me the credentials to log in? It's just a very long process when this functionality is in Central Desktop, but it was still a couple steps to get there. You had to create an event. There was nothing static. So Central Desktop was a great help. And you can now check a box and get a web meeting tab at the top of your workspace. So we took that a step further and said to our IT team, we need URLs, something simple like gerber.room.rapp.com, to redirect to that workspace. So if you haven't used this functionality yet, This is just a standard web meeting available to everybody. And there are 3 options. So your client would always be attending or presenting, and then the host. So what keeps this secure is that in order to host a web meeting, it won't launch unless somebody is a host. But you have to be a member of the workspace in order to host. So if Mack goes to host a web meeting and he clicks join meeting, I'm actually rerouted to Central Desktop. I log in and then it launches. So we have, I think, about 15 or 20, for a majority of our clients, access to real-time, hey, I see that PowerPoint. Oh, I don't have it. Okay, well then just go to gerber.ring.app.com and I'll share it with you. Available on mobile as well, so our CIO has called me and said, I'm in a cab, I'm going to the New York office, I need to pull the spreadsheet and share it with me. He can just go on his phone, I can pull that spreadsheet up. Next is sharing stories and content. So the great thing about our product we want to do is that it is over so many offices, and so often we're asked, we hear in our town halls and our agency meetings, what's going on in New York? You know, we know that the global creative chief comes over once every quarter and shares all the global creative, but that's cool. But outside of that, I feel like I'm just trapped in Dallas. I don't know what else is going on. So you'll get a little more context from this from Brandy on how our hierarchy is set up. But I'm going to walk you through 3 ways that we share. One is we have global workspaces for the disciplines. So our creative workspace is a screenshot of when it first launched. Set up very simple, our work. So every office can submit work that you can then share with all the other offices. So the Disney RFP may be something that the UK did, but I'm in Dallas, I click to the creative space, I have direct insight into what they're doing. Shortcuts, everybody knows that all the creatives have all their little, they don't even need a mouse, they do everything. It's like working Excel. So they can just share, hey, I just found this trick. Hey, I just got this tip. You got to see this. Of course, they love to share funny videos and all that stuff. Our brand asset library, so keeping a consistent brand and keeping everybody on the same page is very difficult. There are different fonts. There are specific colors. So we created one library where anybody can go. You can get a RAPP memo template. You can get our elevated speech for the people who don't know exactly what we do. So we actually invited in our Australia office. They were always reaching out to our headquarters and saying, what's that font again? What do you guys use for this? So we just invited them in as external members, and they have full access into our global asset library. What's even cooler is our case study library. So it was a big initiative to get one workspace that housed all of our IP for business development. So they have very locked down, a couple people have access to a business development central. Then we said, how can we share just a small amount of information globally? We're getting calls from Australia, from Asia, China, everywhere saying, hey, you have an RFP for this, we're looking for a telecommunications RFI. So we created a workspace where from Business Development Central, we only share 2 folders, the RFPs and RFIs and the case studies. We invited them in with our RAPP sharing rules that, hey, if we're going to share this with you, you guys have to share it back. So what's cool is they go in, they have access to these 2 folders, they can only download, they can't add, delete, edit. And then we ask that they upload. So right below that are 2 folders for them where they can go in and do the same. So it does bring the global access into it. They may not be fully on the tool, they don't have access to every other workspace, but they have access to one where, I mean, this is as rich as any other content they could ask for. And with that, I'll turn it over to Suellen.
So this third point is creating a competitive advantage, and not only creating a competitive advantage, but with an underpinning of speed attached to it. And that's where we saw our opportunity, was to create a virtual collaboratory. And I'm going to go through 3 examples for you to show you how we at RAPP use that internally and externally, and also it supports our new business efforts as well. And I hope I did. I did, okay. So this first one is Time Warner Cable, or our account team intranet, and this is a closed workspace that we've developed for every account. So don't think of it as project management, but this is all the IP that you would have, for instance, when you want to onboard a new employee that's come onto your team. So what we do is we store things, everything from a client's marketing calendar to the scope of work. We put all their competitive and RSS feed in this site so that every day these folks can come in, see what's happening, and collaborate very quickly instead of going to, as we all know, oh, it's out on the G drive, it's in somebody's hard drive. This is all consolidated. It's been fantastic. And again, to me, the beauty of it has been the speed. Instead of collecting this, you automatically take someone to this. And again, it's private to those team members, so that we ensure that we have security and firewalls. You can see when the client's calendar, when they have their status meetings, we have the status meetings, we have the team bios, internal and external. So it's a really great way to not only educate, stay current, but again, collaborating in one very transparent way to help our team be faster. And as Embry started up front, you want that rock star talent, so they're on the ball and presenting what they need to. The next one, this is a very interesting one that we used, and it's Metro. Metro Cash and Carry is a European, like a Sam's Club, where you go and buy a large volume purchase. So what we did is we set up an extranet and invited in 5 countries. So we had the Netherlands, Russia, Germany, and Poland, along with ourselves. And Germany was running client service. We were running analytics in the back end. But we took our project plan, and they're German and very precise, that they required of us. And so what we did was to give them full transparency and just that quick, effective speed. We separated out all the deliverables. Those are loaded, as we say, and so that it comes to their email box. They don't just have to go out there. I enter all their names, and it's been very, very successful, and it's kind of showed that we've been able to adapt to their cultural needs as well. And then also, just again, as Anne-Marie pointed back to earlier, it's all about that transparency and what are you doing for me. So this has been really a very cool way, and like we use external licenses, so we're not using up our licenses. We've got 60 people on this that come in and out of this. It's been really great. And this format has also been incredibly useful for new business. So when we have an RFP or we want to have some type of communication, I don't know, you're all younger perhaps, but in the old days, trying to get access to get an RFP or use YouSendIt, and everybody's all over the board. We simply create this. Immediately there's a file structure. We clone it. And from internal to external folks that we invite in, it's been fantastic. And it's just so smooth. And then you basically have a historical record of a new business pitch set up for yourself. And then you can close it out. And then the next one. This one is kind of remedial, but it's an interesting case study in the level of sophistication of the client that you might be dealing with. So for Bahamas, we were missing a lot of emails of these tiny little requests coming in. And I'm not saying they're not a sophisticated client, but from a technology standpoint of how to navigate and quickly get things done. So we simply used, instead of, we would prefer the workflow process where you can channel all this, we just set up discussions. And then we told them, all you have to do, go in here, enter what you want, whether it was a change or a request for some type of asset. And then we were able to make sure that we captured all that and had those routed to that account team. So once someone always picked it up and was able to respond to them, and then we have a diary of those requests that were coming in. So again, normally we would have elevated this to having the workflow and make it a little bit more robust, but at this point in time with this client, it worked beautifully. So those are the 3 ways that we use it internally, and hopefully that might inspire you to use your workspaces in another way. And next is test and generate ideas. This is a really cool one that I love, and this is the latest way that we've used our Rendezvous, SocialBridge feature, and it's about crowdsourcing. I don't know if you guys are all familiar, but you know how you can put a thought out there and try and generate ideas very quickly. So what we've done is we call it the Hunch Farm. And what we do is we've taken and we put it on SocialBridge, and when we need to come up with a great idea or solve a wicked problem for a client, we simply put the brief out there, ask the question, we invite our internal user community in. We've got 30 offices in 50 countries, so we have quite a lot of thinking people. So we put it out there, put it on a like maybe it's 3 days, 4 days, generate those ideas. We'll pick the best ideas and then build a campaign or whatever the solution may be. And then sometimes we have fun with it, and if you get the best idea or you've come up with an idea, you get a really nice prize. So it's that real-time way to generate very, very quickly, and I think kind of a neat, interesting way to use the tool. Okay. All right, I'm going to let Randy go over these last 2.
new service is boundaryless. So as Embry mentioned when she started off, and Mack touched on this a little bit, we have a lot of different offices that are all working through the same tool, different time zones, different sizes. So one of the things we really had to think about when we first set up Rendezvous is really the UI from a perspective of everyone in our agency. So, you know, there are different HR protocols. LA has different holidays than New York. Other countries have different kind of protocols than we do. So what we had to think about was how we were going to set it up. So when you first get to Rendezvous, we kind of set it up like a hierarchy. So everyone sees the same global homepage. On that page, we have content about things that are happening in the different offices, maybe new business wins, a little blog space from our global CEO. So we had made sure that that first page was things that would pertain to everyone. So that's kind of the global where you go as soon as you log in. And then what we did is we kind of made it drill down to what your interests are. So it could be that you work in Dallas, so you want to know when the Dallas office is closed next. Or it could be that you're in the strategy department and there's something really cool that only strategy people would care about. So you would go there to look at it. Could be a client portal like the example Suellen gave. And then you can make your own workspace. I mean, I have so many folders of just things that I use, a certain folder structure where I know how to find everything, so when someone asks me for it, it's there. So instead of having it on the server when I'm out of the office, I can give Mack access to my workspace and say, here it is, you can go in this folder structure. And then there are different interests that people have. So we really wanted to take it to another level outside of, you know, the workflows and the client intranets and extranets, and really get people involved in the system in things that they would normally do outside the system, taking it in there to force traction and drive people to go into the system. So, I didn't do it right. Okay. So these are some examples in the top left-hand corner. This is our global homepage. Now we've revamped this a little bit so that image in the top is kind of a scrolling carousel of different images of cool things that are happening in different offices, and you can click on it and it'll take you to an article or a blog post within Rendezvous. And then down the right-hand side, we have little articles, little feature stories that we do just to let people in all the offices know what's going on. We also have, under that RAPP Life, we use that hashtag to tag photos in different offices on our Instagram account so that people can see what other people have tagged to share photos across the offices. Up here, this is an example of the New York office workspace. So each office, each workspace looks different. The LA one has, you know, sunset and very relaxed and cool. You know, New York tried to be a little more artsy. So we let each office kind of have ownership of their workspace. Make it look how you want, put what you want on there, what you think people care about. People in Dallas may be really interested in one thing that people in New York may not. So everyone really got to own and customize it how they want it. Down here, we have an example of the Dallas strategy homepage. So you may be in an office and then in a department where you have content that pertains only to that group. So they made their own workspace to go and share ideas, new things that are coming up, any kind of IP, and it shows you, you know, who's on right now, so you can see who's going and sharing content. And then, like I said, we also have interest pages. So in New York and also in LA, we have book clubs. So people get together after work. Everyone reads the same book for a month, and then, you know, like a normal book club, they sit and have refreshments and talk about the book. So in New York, we decided to make a workspace for our book club. So every month when we change what book we're reading, we update it, here's the synopsis. We have a group on a site called Goodreads where you can go in and, you know, it gives you all this, kind of like Amazon, you can go read the synopsis of different books and share and like and rate. So we have a link to it there. And then we update, you know, in the calendar when our next book club meeting is, and people can go in and make comments on almost done with the book. It was really good, I hated it, and whatnot. So these are just different examples of how we've kind of taken the tool to the next level outside of specific client-focused work to get people more involved. And then making connections. So to build on that, like I said, there are things that people are interested in outside of work, or things that we do just from a cultural aspect that we wanted to take into the tool to give people another reason to go there. This helps us to build relationships among people in different offices and just as a RAPP community in general. So I'm going to show you some examples. One of those is March Madness, so I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. A lot of people across our agency participate in March Madness brackets, you know, with their friends outside of work, or some people have started doing it in work, so we thought we would take it another step and make it a network-wide competition. So this year we created a workspace just for March Madness. We had everyone go in and join our team in ESPN, and then what we did is we imported that information into Rendezvous. So we had a link where you could go see all the ESPN brackets directly through Rendezvous. We would update with YouTube videos of highlights from past Final Fours, and you know, the guy that broke his leg and his bone came out, whatever, like stuff that people are talking about. We could update it there. And then we put a little discussions area. We called it Smack Talk. So, you know, people are doing a lot of smack talk in the hallways. I was winning for a while. I was really surprised. I ended up losing, but I got the smack talk for like 2 weeks, so it was fun. So it's nice to be able to drive people to things that they're doing anyway that they could do in the system to really build that sense of community. And then as people are winning, we would go in and update the leaderboard from ESPN so people can see it there. Something similar that we are doing this fall is a new initiative we have called RAPP. So similar to March Madness, what we're doing is we're using Rendezvous to track something externally, and this is kind of a good example of how you can integrate Rendezvous with different things, or actually I keep calling it Rendezvous, but SocialBridge in general. So what we're doing is we're asking everyone to track their steps. You know, as the holidays come around, we're trying to do something a little bit healthy. A lot of people are interested in health and fitness as it is. So people are either going to use a mobile application on their phone or a traditional pedometer to track their steps. And what we did is we created a microsite outside of SocialBridge where people go in and enter this, today I took this many steps, or this week this many steps. And we are going to integrate that into SocialBridge. Similar to what we did with March Madness, we'll have a leaderboard showing who's taken the most steps, either by office and just in the agency in general. We're going to have different features that come alive throughout the journey. So as we've been doing it maybe for a month, then you'll get nutrition facts, a meal plan if you want to start eating healthier. Our CFO is really into weight fitness. He like closes his door and does push-ups. I think he's like on the phone, so we're going to have him share tips with the agency on, you know, in between meetings, here's 2 things you can do really quick to like get buff. And then as our client, a lot of our clients, Humana is one of our really big clients, and they have a lot of different health initiatives that they do. So we're going to start to highlight some of that too. So it's just another example of how we're trying to take a lot of different little features and incorporate it into SocialBridge, since it's such a great tool. So hopefully this helps you guys to see different ways that we're using it other than the traditional ways that you would think about right off the bat. Okay. Any questions for us on any of the sections and stuff like that?
What is your process that you have in terms of, you know, once you set up the structure, the framework, in terms of the site that you're going to workspace that you're going to put in to work in, what is the process that you have in, so to who's maintaining it, in terms of collaborating it and maintaining it and keeping it up to date? How do you manage that?
Right now, it's I mean, when we first launched, me and Suellen sat there and we created a workspace for every client. Pretty much said, we turned on all the features and said, send out an email, here's the link, you know, go ahead, AMD team, here's your workspace. And it just fell right out of space, nobody was using it. We found that people aren't going to come and use the tool until they have a reason, so similar to the web forums, you know, not until they realize that they're getting, Bahamas is getting bombarded with emails, will they come and say, here's my problem. So Brandy and I are kind of sort of leads in the offices, and as they came to start to ask questions and how can you help, we would create them a space, and then from there it's been straight cloning. So when somebody will come and say, hey, we need this workspace, we'll clone for them, we'll kind of get them going. So we try to pick one person to try train and say, here's the features, here's what's on, here's what you could potentially use, but go ahead. So it's usually us creating the workspace, but we try to pick one person on the team to say, because you can't train everybody, not everybody's going to be interested, but you pick one person to say, here are a couple features, just get used to it, and then bring on more. It tends to be a little easier.
I think that's something that's definitely been a trend since we launched. like Mack said in the beginning, we gave everyone all the features and built everyone workspaces that here and no one really used it. But you do find that it's kind of like once you let people know what's available and what features there are, then as they start to do their work, they'll realize that they could use something, they could use the web folders, they do need a meeting room. And then once they know the features are there, they start to use it and kind of word of mouth, oh, the Time Warner team, they have their own virtual room, why don't we have one? And it's kind of becomes a needs-based, and because people need it and ask for it, those are the people that are more likely to use it than the ones who you just set it up and you say here and they don't really understand why they would need it.
Anybody else?
Now, in terms of continuous training, do you have formal continuous training for certain workspaces? Is this related, or is just an ongoing process, or it's handed out, from word of mouth to word of mouth?
I mean, we train new hires, but it does go from the word of mouth. So when Gerber does have their meeting room set up, go into a client status meeting to show them, hey, here's how you do this. It's not as mandatory yet as Michael's talking about with full training of lunch and all that. Right now it's just kind of ad hoc, and we'll hear people we'll get 10 questions of the same thing in 4 days. We'll say, okay, next we should probably put together just a one-page document on here are 4 things that you can do. But it's really the questions we receive, we kind of base the training off of that.
Yeah, so when people are onboarded, we give them an introduction. Here's our company intranet portal that we also use in these kind of ways, similar to what we just did for you. And then as people ask questions and need it, or we see a need for it, then we train either very detailed or very high level depending on the need.
Sometimes turnover is good in that way, and that when you get somebody in and they don't know, they don't know any better, and you hammer them in and say, here are all these things that that's not going to do, they're like, that's awesome.
It's true, you get that, you have the bad seeds that just hate everything and don't want to learn anything. But then the good people, you get them and they're like, oh, this is awesome. Then you have 2 or 3 good people scattered around that are saying good things, and it helps. It kind of refresh the persona.
So this may be a silly question, but is this your only intranet? Do you guys not have a horrible, clunky intranet that you have to use?
Yeah, so we used to have a horrible clunky internet, and then we turned it into this. So it is kind of different because it's our intranet, and we use all the other features too, except for the project management portion of it. But it does have the traditional, the HR stuff, the how do I find my health insurance plan, what are the holidays. We have specific workspaces for that stuff, but for the HR, specifically by office, it's different by office. The directory of the company, we do have those features in here, but it's all tied in. But like I said, with the hierarchy, it's nice because you can go wherever you want to go. So if you just need to find out how to get your health insurance, you can search it and it's tagged and it'll take you to the HR workspace. So it's all there.
I know with Embry and Suellen, they're senior within RAPP and they're sponsoring it. Was it important to have, how important was their sponsorship of rolling this out with the rest of the company? And was there even higher sponsorship that kind of played a factor in that as well?
I'd say their sponsorship is very important. I think that's very key. I think us being on a more junior level, we kind of hear more, and sometimes I think can relate more than some of the senior level management. And a lot of times, people are more inclined, if no one's enforcing it and no one's watching, people aren't really going to do it unless they want to, which there are some people that want to, but it is, leading by example, it is very important, I think, for people in the agency to be able to see, oh, the managing director just sent this blog to Rendezvous, so I'm going to go in and click. And to see that they are using it for their, they have, secret code name workspaces for their management level stuff that they do, but for people to see that they are using it too. It's one thing when their manager says one thing and then you never see them do it. I think that really helps.
And it's time consuming. There's a lot of hand holding. When they do send out the email through Outlook, you go over and say, We've done this in Rendezvous. I show you how. You send them a little training document, and then next week comes out of the Outlook, and you're like, go back over there. So it's very time consuming and a lot of let me walk you through this.
But I think, once we show them how to do it a few times, or do it for them, or show them that it is easy, things like the mobile capabilities, like you said, some they're always on the move, they're rarely at their desk, senior level executive. The CEO is traveling all the time, so for him to be able to go on and look at it from his phone and quickly understand how to use it, I think helps also to build traction.
Marie, how are you guys collecting feedback from users in terms of like things that they would like to see? Do you have a database that has to do that, or are they reaching out to you through like workspaces?
They don't through workspaces. Really, it's just email. They need ideas. We'll report them to Ideasphere, but we are pretty good about taking people's questions and consolidating them. So, we can reach out for training, or we can reach out, there's a good idea. It just sucks when they email and say, here's an idea, that'd be great, and then 3 days later, any word on when this is coming in? Give me some time.
Yeah, we did have to make a suggestion box there for a while, but we found it was some of the same people over and over and over again, asking interesting questions. So, but I think it helps because a lot of people are very comfortable with us too, and we're kind of the face of the, we're like the task and rendezvous. Like every time we come to me, like, oh, it's going to be something, some training on something. But we're the face of it, so people are comfortable. Proofreading are always like, hey, I noticed this isn't working. Can you move the folders here like this? And like Mack said, they will follow up and see if we spoke to someone about help and when they will be able to do it. So it's nice that people have that comfort. But like you said, people stop in the hallway, eating lunch all the time with questions and concerns. So.
We did one interesting thing too this summer. We always do intern programs, and so across 3 offices, we hired 4 interns to almost challenge us and bring feedback of what do we need to do differently to the platform. So they pretty much revamped a lot of the homepage stuff, the user experience, and really almost content hierarchy. Like we were highlighting things that, we run Google Analytics on the site, but we were highlighting things that people are not interested in. So they really challenged us from a pretty young perspective. So I think that was there's like a day-to-day strategy of collecting input, but this was almost like a pressure cooker type situation with the interns. That was nice because they had they were just looking for some quick summer pay and they had no bias to the system. So they gave us really good feedback that we incorporated into the site.
Roughly how many hours a week do you guys spend either supporting or adminning extension? You said you have, 900 seats on it that are up and running?
Yeah.
It's quite a lot.
Yeah.
Mack is
60, 70,
Yeah,
80.
Mack will put more than me. I probably spend 60% of my time between this and our other systems. Mack probably a little bit more, just between that new user implementation setup, answering people's questions. I can't log in, the sign-on doesn't work.
Can I ask what your guys' titles are?
I'm a system administrator.
Okay.
And mine is client operations project manager.
Okay.
You have a lot of code customization on the central desktop, or just regular standard workspaces that you call?
We do have a lot of code. So when we first launched, we wanted to be as awesome and sexy as possible. So you saw on our homepage, we have a scrolling iframe. So that's not all us. We did have to bring in some of our IT guys, some of our developers to say, we want this, but we set up a WordPress instance, and now it's completely managed by us. We go in there, we can upload a photo. It's less than a minute. We just take the URL from the blog post and put it in there, and it scrolls across. It looks awesome. But there are, the Instagram feed. So you couldn't see on the screenshot, but it says #RappLife. So we Googled Instagram feed into, external site, copy and pasted this code from our Rap Twitter, and it just showed up. So a lot of it is us just kind of Googling and figuring out what to do.
Yeah. It is important, I will say, to make sure when you're setting it up that it's built in a way that you can wasn't as user-friendly for us who are not coders
Me
to
and
go
Mary-
in and change
Me
it.
and Mary get on the phone, like, I don't know how to
You
do
know,
that.
bracket, star, like, you know, I mean, we did figure out like pretty things to be surprised. But, you know, it is important to make sure that when you are setting it up, you do want it to look, I mean, it's nice because we can still, you know, drop in, the boxes wherever we need, but when you do want to make it look a little bit